Obamacare is really, I think, the worst thing that has happened in this nation since slavery. And it is, in a way, it is slavery, in a way, because it is making all of us subservient to the government.
How can you compare a health care program to the brutal oppression and abuse of black people in this country?
The issue here is that we have turned over to the government the most important thing we have, which is our health and our health care. And for those who are well-read, they will know that many people who have not had the interest of the United States at heart have advocated making the population dependent in order to achieve the, quote, utopian society.
All right, you're saying that these have been influenced by people who didn't have America's best interest at heart. Are you saying the president and this administration don't have Americans' best interest at heart because they're trying to get people health coverage?
No, the reason that this is the next worst thing is because it is taking the most important thing that you have and subjecting it to control by the government. That is the first step to government control of everything.
Here's where most people would take issue, because they would say that Jim Crow is pretty bad, that World War II is pretty bad, that Vietnam was pretty bad, that D-Day was pretty bad, that Iraq was pretty bad, that Japanese internment camps were pretty bad. All these things were terrible, and they have happened since slavery. And you say Obamacare is worse than all of those things?
I do say that, yes. All of those things are bad, but those do not fundamentally change the United States.
Okay.
This is the beginning of a fundamental change of moving away from a government that is for of and by the people to a government that is for of and by the government. It flies in the face of what America is all about.
Segment tonight, the Islamic faith and politics. Dr. Ben Carson is stirring up controversy after saying this.
Really go back to Muhammad and read about his life, not only in Mecca but in Medina, and his subsequent life, and the hadith and the whole story of his life and the beliefs, systems that were brought out of that. It will give you a much better impression. Islam is not a religion. It is a lifestyle that doesn't really allow the separation of religion from politics.
Joining us now from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, Dr. Ben Carson. So, Doctor, that kind of blew up after you had said that. So you want to explain it any further? Islam is not a religion. It's a lifestyle. Explain what you mean.
Yeah, it's, a lot of people think that Islam is religion. Now, being a Muslim, that is a religious component of Islam, which is the lifestyle that really goes back, as I said, to Muhammad. And you have to look at both the Quran and the Hadith and the Fatwa and all of this to really get a conglomeration of the many aspects of it. And one of the components, if you take all of it, is Sharia. And there is a component also that sees Islam as the preeminent force in the world, dominating all others. Anybody who doesn't agree with them is either eliminated or brought into subjection. Now, there is a reformed movement. There are reformed Muslims, just like there were reformed people in the Christian faith. And most of the Muslims who are in America are reformed. They don't take in all of the stuff that I just mentioned, which is a good thing, because that would not be very compatible with our lifestyle. So
let me ask you this. Do you think the vast majority of Muslims in America are of the reformed nature, therefore don't necessarily believe Sharia law supersedes the U.S. Constitution?
I certainly get that impression. I grew up around a lot of Muslims growing up in Detroit, and I didn't get the impression that they were non-patriotic. But obviously, as we bring more people into our country, we need to examine carefully who they are, why they're coming here, where have they been. We have to become intelligent in the way that we screen people. I wouldn't screen people on the basis of their religion or their belief system, but I would screen them in terms of what their likelihood is to cause problems in our country. If we're not smarter, we're going to suffer the consequences. And remember, in the Holy Land Foundation trial, a memorandum was discovered, explanatory memorandum that said that it would be easier to accomplish civilization jihad in America because the Americans would be so interested in political correctness
Doctor,
that they would allow their own rights to be compromised.
Does faith play a role in politics? Does faith play a role in governing? And I'm specifically thinking of President Obama. Should his faith play a role in how he treats extreme Islamic terror?
Well, you know, people can say that faith doesn't play a role, but of course your faith plays a role in everything that you do. What you believe in and what you don't believe in. Even an atheist has faith in something, and it affects the way that they relate to other people and how they relate to the world. So the real question is, in our country, in the United States of America, do we make provisions for that? And the answer is yes. The very First Amendment of our Constitution protects your faith.
Right.
And your ability to live according to your faith.
Doctor?
And we should be very cautious of anything that dampens that ability.
All right, Doctor, you sat down with the ladies of The View, and it got a little bit heated at one point. Let's take a listen so our audience knows what went on, and I'd like you to comment on it.
This guy is, I'm sorry, he's a racist, and he's not good for the country.
What's the alternative? I look at the big picture. I could look at any one little thing and pick anybody apart on it. But right now, the nature of our country is at stake.
Okay, I'm listening for that answer. Is Donald Trump a racist?
No, he's not a racist. But you know what the left does? You know, if you don't agree with them, you know, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're Islamophobic, you know, they have a whole passel of terms that they're going to throw at you. And what people have to do is stop being afraid of these names. You know, this is like third-grade tactics. If you're going to let that keep you from doing and saying what you need to say, then you are a third grader.
All right, Dr. Carson, thank you very much for joining us.
To secure the border with Mexico, what did you mean by that? Obviously, drones are used now for surveillance along the border. Are you talking about taking drone strikes at the U.S.-Mexico border?
It was quite clear what I was talking about. I said that drones are excellent for surveillance. You know, along that border, we have miles and miles of fences. And, you know, I went there last week and didn't see any Border Patrol people. And those fences are so easy to scale, it's almost like not having a fence there. So drones can help with the surveillance. In no way did I suggest that drones be used to kill people. And I said that to the media at the time. I said, you guys are, some of you are going to go out and say Carson wants to use drones to kill people on the borders. How ridiculous. At some point, I hope we have some responsible media which actually focuses on the problem. We have a huge security risk there. And talking to some of the sheriffs down there on the border, Sheriff Babus, Sheriff Daniels, some of the other law enforcement agencies, listen to the frustration. You should have them on your show and let them talk. Right. About what's actually going on down there. And it seems like we have not only the cartels to deal with, the drug smugglers, the people smugglers, but we have the federal government, which is not being helpful.
Yeah,
over the last couple of years, they've released 67,000 of those people.
Yeah, but Dr. Carson, there were some reports that said that you were at the very least considering drone strikes on cartels down there at the border. You're saying under no circumstances would you use drones for military purposes along the U.S.-Mexico border? No drone strikes whatsoever?
That's a total lie. What I said is it's possible that a drone could be used to destroy the caves that are utilized to hide people. You know, those
hide immigrants
need
or
to be gotten rid of.
Who would be hidden in these caves?
No,
Where
the
are
scouts.
These caves?
The scouts and the people who are facilitating, all the legal activities. Those caves are very evident. And I hope you have some of the sheriffs in. They can show you the pictures. They can show you what's going on there. We're not getting support from the federal government to deal with these people. They're being outgunned.
But Dr. Carson,
56% of that border is not under our control.
Okay, but I just want to make sure we button this down. So you're saying that in some instances you would advocate using drone strikes to take out cartels that are bringing migrants across the border? Is that what you're talking about? Wouldn't there be some instances where perhaps innocent people might get killed? Yeah, please. Let's
read my lips.
Let's do it. Let's read
listen very carefully to what I'm saying. I said there are caves. There are caves that they utilize, those caves can be eliminated. There are a number of possibilities. That could be one of them. I'm not talking about killing people. No people with drones.
You would just take out the caves themselves. You would make sure that the caves are empty and then drone them.
I think